While rereading Neverkeep to prepare for Book 2 Echo Fort, I took detailed notes of important moments and info. This is just what, as a seasoned Twisted Sister reader, I think could be worth remembering. The entire rest of that video just recorded without audio. This is normally off to the side, but it is going to be right here, so that way I can see that it is still green and still recording my audio so I don't crash out again, because if I have to record this another time, this video might not be coming. Anyway, this series has two FMCs, Everest and Vesper. Everest is a Pisces with Aries rising. Her mother is a provider, basically a fae selected to birth children for a powerful fae, in this case Commander Abraham Rake. Commander Rake favors Ransom and his cruelty while being dismissive of Everest and considering her a runt. It's also mentioned that Everest has 6 older sisters that have already graduated from Neverkeep. Everest's closest and really only friend is a man named Harlan, who is a bear shifter. Ransom throws Everest through the boundary, expecting her to be destroyed by it, but she isn't. The other FMC, Vesper, is known as the Sky Witch and is an Aquarius and air elemental. We learn in Chapter 4 that her order is a succubus. Vesper and other Skyforgers descend on the Water Kingdom, arriving on a flying battle island named Iron Wraith, which has Echo Fort, a building designed for war, along with barracks for the Skyforgers. We meet 2 of Vesper's friends, Dahlia, who is a chimera and can breathe fire, as well as a harpy named Moraine. Vesper partakes in the dark arts of wielding ether, which is a dark blood magic. Vesper and the Skyforgers are attacking the Water Kingdom and the Forge because they'd kidnapped an Air Kingdom fae because he's a basilisk, and the venom was a potent and deadly weapon in the war. Vesper, Dahlia, and Moraine are joined by a man named Cade, who tells them that Prince Dragor sent him to help them. As they're rescuing the basilisk, Vesper bumps into 2 men. She recognizes a flamebringer weapon in one of the guy's hands and tells her friends and Cade to run because there's basilisk venom everywhere. Cade saves Vesper and ends up revealing that his order form is a drake and that his wings can't burn. Everest rushed to the forge to find her mother and sees the workers sealing a weapons room with ice to protect it from their enemies. The 2 flamebringers that Vesper had run into emerge and send fire towards the barrels of basilisk venom, causing an explosion. Everest's mother sacrifices herself to shield Everest from the deadly venom using her body and ice magic, even though some venom does burn Everest's left palm. We learn that Vesper is crossborn. In the Waning Lands, the Reapers are the only fae who can use healing magic. Everest chases after the 2 men responsible for her mother's death. One of the men manages to steal her mother's sword, and both of the men get away. Back on Iron Wraith, the Stonebreakers attack, trying to bring down the flying battle island. They end up intentionally crashing the island, but are quickly approached by the monster creatures in the Crux Wasteland. The Skyforgers retreat and abandon Vesper in the Wasteland, however she manages to get back onto the flying island before it gets too far. And that's the first 10 chapters of Neverkeep, then there's a 1-year time jump. In that year, Everest began to forge weapons, similar to how her mother did. One of the weapons that she forged was a dagger, and she leaves a space for when she learns the name of the man who killed her mother so that way she can etch it into the blade. Vesper, Dahlia, and Moraine enter a ball celebrating the most promising candidates heading to Neverkeep covered in blood, and carrying the severed head of Prince Dragor's advisor Tobias because he was a traitor who spilled Air Kingdom secrets to the Flamebringers. Any fae arriving at Hellfort that has the site, or any fae that are awakened with more than one element become acolytes, or reapers in training. The vampires were a law unto themselves. They didn't care what element a fae possesses like the rest of the kingdoms, and formed powerful covens among themselves, and have claimed land far east of the Waning Lands for their own empire. Both Everest and Vesper pass the combat trial and Cyclops assessment and continue on to their awakening and magic trials. When Everest begins her magic trial, no magic comes out of her left hand that had been burned by the basilisk venom. However, she destroys all the targets required. The Reapers note that her magic was astounding and that she had great control, especially for her first time casting magic, but reject her due to the irreparable damage to her left hand, leaving her with a clear disadvantage. Everest refuses to accept this, and a blast of power rips from her, destroying the magical barrier around the Reapers. They seem in awe that she was able to do so, and a man named Reaper Jaspin tells the High Reaper that there's no rules stating that a one-handed caster can't place at Neverkeep. Harlan was awakened with both water and earth magic, so he will be trained as a Reaper away from the warriors. Before they're separated, Harlan kisses Everest and says he's wanted to do that forever, but wanted to wait until she successfully trained at Neverkeep and became a warrior to ask her to be his. While Ransom and her other siblings have their father's last name, Rake, the commander, only gave the name to his true heirs, so Everest goes by her mother's last name, which was Arcadia. Along with not being allowed to kill each other while enrolled at Neverkeep, the neophytes also can't leave the keep and surrounding island until they graduate. The only exception to this is if a Sinfair is called to battle. Even though they're forbidden from killing each other while at Neverkeep, the unwritten rule is to basically just not get caught doing so Vesper has a list of targets from Dragor. The Fire Kingdom is ruled by the matriarch, a woman named Morel Brinthium, who has a habit of adopting kids orphaned by the war and raising them to be warriors, and giving them her last name. There's a market town that visits Neverkeep called Wandershire, where neophytes can buy supplies. It's ran by a man named Mavis Angelico, who is a neutral party in the Endless War. Mavis can tell that Everest doesn't have much money, so he agrees to buy her fabric to make herself gloves if she lets him look at the dagger she forged. When leaving Wandershire, Everest runs into the Flamebringer that killed her mother. She learns that his name is Kaiser Brimthium, one of the matriarch's orphan warriors, and that his order is a Fury, which is basically an incredibly rare order that feeds on fear and can bring a fae's nightmares to life while taking possession of their body and mind. Kai calls Everest Silka Levin, which is in a language she doesn't know, so we do not know what that means. There exists a prophecy spoken by a seer who was alive when the Endless War started. I'll put a screenshot on the screen here as it's recited by Everest, and this is in chapter 19. Vesper notices a fae nicknamed the Cobra that's on her kill list, so she manipulates his desire for bloodshed until he starts acting violently and starts a fight and ends up killing a Raincarver. Vesper follows Reaper. She overhears talking and accidentally witnesses the Grand Maester torturing the Cobra and then having him healed just enough to prolong his death. The Grand Maester performs a ritual calling upon the dagger blessed by the sun and the blood of the fallen and says, And so our offering is made, and so your feast is prepared. Everest's order still hasn't emerged, but she knows that her magic recharges when she is submerged in a bathtub. While bathing, she finds what she describes as a small blue lizard with tiny wings, flat head, and large eyes like a little dragon. Everest meets Galump, who comes with her to follow this little blue lizard. They find and open a secret passage and follow the little lizard down it. Everest hears more screams that Galump can't seem to hear. They end up in a cavern and see the Reapers performing a ritual over a stonebreaker that had been declared murdered, the Reapers clearly having lied about his death as he's here screaming with runes carved into his skin. Everest's order finally emerges, but no one seems to know what it is. She appears to be some sort of leopard that has white fur and dark black spots, but a different leopard than the other similar orders. Everest overhears Kai's friend North inviting two women to a fuckfest that night and hands them masks. Everest sneaks into the Flamebringer's tower where the party is being held. Everest steals a mask and party attire off of Flamebringer so she can try to seduce Kai and kill him. However, he knows right away that it's her. They start to fight, but then he gasps and clutches his chest, then kicks her out after asking her what she did to him. Vesper finds out that Prince Dragor is marrying the Collingsworth family heir and is upset since he made her promise she belonged to him, but he didn't promise the same in return. Mavis makes a deal with Everest. If she makes him 4 high-quality blades a month, in exchange, he'll pay for anything she wants or needs. Everest realizes she hasn't eaten, so she goes to see if there's still food available when she overhears 2 Reapers and decides to spy. As she's hiding, Vesper pops in as well. They see the Reapers sacrifice the Skyforger, who questioned if the Reapers were actually Starblessed, Ogden Breeze, to the Void. The Reapers lie and blame Ogden's murder on a Flamebringer and execute her in front of everyone in a really brutal way. Everest and Vesper tell each other the weird shit they've seen Reapers do, then make a blood pact to never kill or harm each other while they reside at Neverkeep, which includes not selling each other out to the Reapers. Prince Dragor has Vesper meet with him and his bride so they can discuss Vesper being his mistress once they're wed. Vesper notes a mural with the Elysium prophecy according to the Air Kingdom, but if you compare this to earlier, the prophecy according to Vesper says the ruthless storm of destiny instead of the cresting wave of destiny. This is in chapter 26. Everest had found a secret passage that she thinks has to do with the Reapers, but she needs Vesper's help because it's too high up. They find a carving of the prophecy and notice it's slightly different than what they both know. This one mentioning peacemakers and one united rule. I'll put a screenshot here of this prophecy. This is chapter 29. Vesper and Everest find a weird room and something sort of feeds on Vesper's magic, pulling her in until Everest saves her. They try another path and find a chamber with a few archways and a rune that Vesper recognizes as meaning travel. Everest notices a giant urn with carvings of dragons on it that contains a black glittery powder. They use this glittery powder on one of the arches and end up in underground passageways in the Air Kingdom. Everest hears a noise they go check out, and the two come face to face with an imprisoned dragon, which seems impossible since the dragons are said to be lost and have been for a long ass time. Vesper speaks of a legend about a love so powerful that it broke the world, cracking it into the 4 continents of the Waning Lands. It's way too long to talk about here, but it's chapter 32. The Sinfair have been called to battle, and there was a victory celebration at the Air Kingdom Palace. During the celebration, Vesper and Cade hook up, and she thinks someone may have seen them, but she's not sure. Everest made herself a gold lookalike Reaper cloak so she can sneak in their quarters to find Harlan. The bells then toll, signifying that Neverkeep is under attack. Everest wants to use this distraction to get back into the secret passages, so she and Vesper clue Dahlia, Moraine, and Cade in on what they've seen. Those attacking Neverkeep are the vampires, who typically stay out of the Endless War and only come around for the Awakening so they can claim the newly emerged vampires. Because the vampires here form covens, they can communicate in each other's minds, and their speed, strength, and desire for bloodshed are heightened by that bond. While fighting the vampires, Everest sees one use healing magic on himself. Vesper tells Cade, Dahlia, and Moraine about the Stardust and Archways, and worries about another kingdom finding out about them and using them to send armies into the other kingdoms. Everest finds the chamber with the acolytes and sees all of them unconscious and chained to stone pillars, forming a circle. Harlan wakes up and tells Everest to run as she feels a dark power rolling through the chamber. That dark power or being starts feeding on the acolytes and then slams its power into Everest and starts rooting through her mind. 3 acolytes were destroyed by this dark power, but the rest remained unconscious and Everest remains unharmed. 3 Reapers storm in and see her though and are mad because she's not chosen and say they'll sacrifice her to the Void. Kaiser suddenly appears and says his Sayer demon Calcifiend led him here. Turns out Blue was a Sayer demon belonging to Kai this whole time. The Reaper Everest was questioning says he's unable to cast his magic, to which Kai says this means Everest is what he suspected she is. Vesper and friends seem to defeat the vampires they were battling, but then Cade stabs Moraine through the heart. Cade lunges for Vesper, but Dahlia throws herself in the way and Cade kills her. Cade says that he thought Vesper was what stood between him and Prince Dragor, but really she ended up being his way in. He then says she gave him a way into the heart of every kingdom by showing him the archways and Stardust, and that he'll be praised in Avanis for winning them the war. He also says that the Stonebreakers have been figuring out the Reaper's secrets for years, and that you don't have to attend Neverkeep to have your magic awakened like most people think, which has to be how he hid that he has both air and earth magic. Kai tells Everest that she's not a threat because she doesn't know how to wield the power within her, but that she will be a threat when she figures it out. Kai finally tells her that the power she possesses is the Void. The prophecy says, "Seek the Void, for it shall guide the victor to their glorious path, a weapon of purity and the gift of Null." Kaiser then claims Everest as his Fearsire. Furies can use Nightfire only one time to select one Fae to be wholly theirs, and he chooses Everest. This means that she won't be able to fight off his possession. He can summon her at any time, will her to do anything, and she will feed him her most haunting fears to fuel his power. Kaiser says the Void has to be delivered to Pyros, but it will be easier to do so once they complete their training at Neverkeep, so this soul tie keeps her from escaping him, and he forbids her from speaking of this to anyone. We get a new POV at the end from the dragon that was imprisoned. Apparently he's been imprisoned for hundreds of years, ever since his father presented him to the Reapers as a miracle after he emerged as a dragon. His name is Bastian Carterin, and he is apparently the heir to the Crown of Bones. Vesper and Cade come racing into where the dragon is, And Vesper cuts the chain, leashing the dragon here, and it ends up causing a crack in the cavern wall in its rage, and Cade escapes through that. The dragon saves Vesper from being crushed before flying off, but it's clear both Bastion and Vesper feel some sort of connection. That is the Neverkeep recap before Echo Fort comes out on the 17th. If there's any other videos you want me to make about this, or any questions or anything anyone has, let me know. I will be doing a review and reactions maybe once I do read Echo Fort, but for now, this was Neverkeep. I hope this is helpful.